Welcome to Fernando's Godcast, where we're here to break down some walls. And, there's so many walls that we put up with the life that we know that we can live, that we can be experiencing. And, throughout our life, since we're kids, people are putting up walls with what we can do, can't do, our limitations. And then these walls become real and they become our ceiling. We can't get past it. And, right now in this moment in your life and in my life, you've broken down walls before, right? And then you're experiencing a more abundant life in many areas because of those walls you've broken down. And so that's what we want to do today. We want to identify the wall, and we bring on guests to help us break down those walls in the sense that they help us identify it, give it a name. Sometimes if you can't give something a name, if you can't pinpoint it, it's hard to really know where the attack is coming from and what's limiting you. So I try to find the best guests to bring on here to help us identify and kind of break it down for us. What is that wall? Why do we have it? And, today's topic is about breaking down the walls of fear of inflation. Right now our economy is going through a crisis, or seemingly like it's going through a crisis with inflation and fear of recession, and the recession is going to get worse, and we don't know where it's all going to go. And a few months ago, it was the war in Ukraine, and everyone was panicking about that. And, created a ripple of fear of, World War III when, Russia invaded Ukraine. And before that, it was, everyone's panicking about the COVID vaccine. And everyone's saying, hey, we're getting sick from the COVID vaccine, or y'all are getting sick because you don't have the COVID vaccine. And then before that was the actual COVID virus that was spreading, and on and on and on and on. And then this made me start realizing that the real enemy is not the thing that we look at, that we can see. It's fear disguising itself, putting on different masks, throughout different points of our life. That's really the enemy. And so right now, I sense a lot of fear. I'm tempted to get afraid. I get afraid at times. And so I was like, no, let's attack the real issue, the root of the issue, which is fear of the inflation, fear of the recession. And so, I found the perfect guest for us to help us break down that wall, to explain it, and then to help us tear it down, to break it down. And, this guy is amazing. His story is just so inspiring. He was on TED Talk, and he shared his story of, where he came from and, where he is now. It's just so inspiring. And after hearing his story and watching his TED Talk video and hearing, building this friendship that we started building recently, I started realizing that there is always a solution for the fear that we're facing. There is a solution for the panic that we're facing in an economic downturn. It could be, some of the attacks could be sicknesses and disease, which we were facing with COVID, and now it's financial. And, sometimes we limit God to a certain area, but today we're going to be attacking this fear of inflation, fear of lack, fear of poverty, fear of not being able to provide. So, our guest here today is going to help us break this down. He's an incredible author. He's authored several children's books. He's dabbling in so many different things. It's hard to keep track of everything you do, my friend. So author, children's books, which I definitely want to dig into. Inventor, he's invented several products, games, family games. And you got to hear the story of how him and his daughter invented this family game, the 2-in-1 family, I believe it was. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But he's doing that. He just launched a magazine, which I'd want to dig into. It's just an incredible concept there. So I just want to introduce you, Steve, the legend, the legacy, the man, the myth, the legend, Steven Scotts. Welcome to Fernando's Godcast, where you're going to help us break down the walls of fear.
Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really excited to be here today. It's a funny topic. Topic is really one of the topics that I use to inspire within my journey. It's not always easy, but when you understand how to communicate with fear, people never talk about communication with fear. We always think about avoiding fear. We think about just not having it at all, but you got to embrace it. And you have to show fear your plan. That's my new philosophy. Whenever you're up against fear, you show them your plan. Now, the challenge is that most people don't have a plan. And in the Bible, it talks about writing a vision, make a plan. We have wishes. We have things that we want.
Yeah.
But just like how we want a seed to grow from the soil, first you got to plant the seed. And a lot of times we're not planting the seeds in the areas where it counts. We're planting seeds, but it may not be in fertile ground. Maybe on the sidewalk, maybe in the wrong people.
Okay.
That's why you got to pray and ask God for that wisdom of surrounding yourself with the right people. And sometimes you got to be in isolation mode first,
Okay.
which I had to go into that mindset of understanding self. I struggled for years with panic attacks and anxiety. Father was sick, and throughout the years, it was like a lot of fear of this type of thing. And like you mentioned earlier, Fernando, about inflation and recession, I would probably had that same concern before. But now that I learned from the great Jim Rohn how recession always overcomes by progression. You know, when people talk about inflation and fear, all you got to do is learn how to jockey, learn how to shift modes. We are accustomed to that right now. Look at COVID. We had to shift. A lot of millionaires and people started their business because of shutdowns and things like that. And most people can look at it, oh, we can complain about it, but the gift that God gave us was the gift of creating, bringing things into fruition, manifesting it. But you got to get past your inner self. You said the enemy. My whole thing, I always say the enemy is the inner me. Once you conquer the inner me, which is inside of you, then anything outside the world really don't matter. Recessions and doesn't matter, right? Because if you're always constantly creating, you're just adapting to the market.
Sure.
No matter what you look at it, the marketplace is going to always thrive, but it's shifting. I mean, look how Zoom built up over the situation with COVID, right?
Correct.
Everybody started getting different platforms, streaming. Everything is always jockeying and shifting. I remember even on the talk of the magazine, back in June, the magazine was nothing more than a name.
Okay.
A good idea, Black innovation, helping to inspire other Black and brown innovators that was overlooked.
Sure. And
put them in publication. I was trying to get my story heard. Nobody wasn't responding to me. Now, I could have went and complained and said, man, even if I think about me, no, what you do is you use your creative being, you use your creative self. And I said, you know what? And I'm going to be honest with you, Fernando. I did not know where to start or what to do, but I had so many magazines on my coffee table that was giving. They always say success leaves clues.
Right.
Success magazine.
Yeah.
Inc. You name it. Fast Company. It was already there. And the cover didn't look like me. So I'm like, all right, I know I'm not in the same scenario of me wanting to get my story out. Are there other innovators that look like me? And that's when I've been on the search and I've been on a quest. I call myself as almost like Professor X, like how in X-Men he was trying to find all the mutants. I was trying to find all the innovators.
Wow.
I was looking for them and I found them, and good people connected with them and looking. And that's the thing. See, Jimmy always said, I call Jimmy for short, but it's Jim Rohn. He always said, findings are reserved for the searchers. If you're trying to find things in life, you're trying to you got to be able to search. Seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall. See, a lot of people are not asking. A lot of people are not seeking. And we're dwelling in the fear. Why? Because that's what we know that come naturally, but knowing that fear can be tamed.
Right.
Fear can be controlled. You got to have some type of fear. Fear helps you get that inspiration to go here and fight. And also on the flip side of that coin, it can give you that desperation. That's the only time people will change in life. Either inspiration or desperation.
Wow. Okay.
Either somebody inspired you to change, or when you don't have a plan B and you got to make it happen.
Okay.
And that's how I live by it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Our life has got to be.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I think y'all can see why I brought him on here. He's just a fireball, and everything that comes out of this guy is to lift other people up, is to show us that we don't have to stay where we're at emotionally, financially, psychologically, whatever it is that you're dealing with, whatever demons are attacking you, there's always a way. And God has given. I love what you said about the magazine, which I do want to dig into, that was in your house. And but take us back to your childhood so people can understand you weren't always this way. You weren't always this fired up and looking for solutions. Take us back to your childhood. What was it like growing up in Philly, during your time when you were a kid? What was it like?
Well, I mean, growing up in the 90s, I mean, it was like the hottest time. You know how everybody say, like the 70s, people that grew up in the 70s say, oh, that was the best time. And people grew up in the 80s. 90s was good. 90s was all about just trying to make it to the NBA. A lot of people want to have these hoop dreams. And And my parents invested a lot for me playing basketball. And I worked on my skill set like crazy. My left hand started to be more powerful than my right. I'm right-handed. The thing that I did not work on was my mind.
Okay.
A lot of this stuff that we see now about mental training, all that stuff, it wasn't out back in the 90s. Either you had it or you didn't. And all somebody had to do was talk me out of my character, and I was done.
Okay.
So I was open. Now I got force fields, I got doors, I got locks. Can't penetrate this mind. It's almost like, Professor X. I got security now.
Yeah.
But before I let anybody in, and what they did was they penetrated my mind to me not thinking, good on myself. And whatever skill that I worked on, whatever talent that I had, you might say it didn't work out because my mindset was lost.
Okay.
But then after a while, when you in life and you want things to change, I always thought that things would change because I wanted to change. Until listening to Jim Rohn, he said things will only change when you decide to change.
Correct. Okay.
And most people, scientifically, after age 30, if it's not a desperation or inspirational situation, they're not going to change.
Correct.
I wanted change.
Right.
So
yeah, and I guess
I got tired.
You got tired. Okay. So when you were growing up, you said that people could just take you. You were in a different place than you are now. You've built that fortress in your mind and your heart, where people can't just hijack your self-esteem and your self-worth, and right, the enemy can't get in there, which is awesome. But it seems like when you were a child, I want to kind of help people see that there is a progression, there's a process that we go through. That it's okay to, if you're not where someone like you is today, this peak, like you're in this peak state, you're creating, fear, stifles all that creation. If someone is in that place right now, as you look back, what can you tell them about that process of like going from where you were, where people could just hijack your self-esteem, to where you are now? What was it like? What was it there that
It's
changed?
the lack of belief within yourself.
Okay.
Belief was not taught in school.
Belief. Okay.
Either you had it at that time, either you had it or you didn't have it.
Okay.
My whole saying is, with belief you have confidence. Without belief you have fear.
Okay.
3 things build belief: faith, truth, and trust. If you don't have those 3 characteristics among who represents you and what you're lost, you're going to follow somebody else's philosophy.
Sure.
You're going to live somebody else. Many people are living other people's philosophy they're not even supposed to be living. I always tell this whole thing about the story of this man climb up this ladder, got to the top after about 30 years, realized when he got to the top of the top of this building, he was on the wrong side of the building.
Wow. Okay.
Wrong philosophies, wrong way of thinking, lack of belief because it wasn't taught that. Self-confidence? Are you serious? That wasn't even a topic in school.
Okay.
Either you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Now you find trainings, courses, seminars, books,
Yeah.
audio.
It's really
You get
so
it all
easy
now.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it seems like you changed internally before you seen anything external change. What was that first thing that you created that you could look back on and say, wow, that was my first innovation. That was my first invention. Because I know you're fascinated with inventing solutions to problems that people have and problems in your own life. You use your innovation and your inventiveness to solve those problems. What was that first thing you invented as you look back?
The first thing I invented was the clean cut.
Okay.
That was in 7th grade.
Okay, what
And
was
the only
that?
reason why I had that passion for inventing, I didn't have cable growing up, but Family Matters came on. And Steve Urkel was, one of the characters outside of Will Smith that I always liked to mimic and want to be like. And
Wow.
that character inspired me to invent, because with the schools I went to, they didn't show me inventors that looked like me. So I didn't think I could invent. But when Steve Urkel was on the air, and I started seeing how he's on, and look, half the time, most of those inventions didn't work for him, but it was just his determination.
Wow.
Like I mentioned in my TED Talk, it was his determination that inspired me to want to be. But it was a character. It wasn't even a real person.
Right.
Because I didn't know people like me invented anything until much later growing up.
Did your
So,
Oh, go ahead.
so that's what inspired me to be an inventor. And it was a pair of clippers
Okay.
that had the ability to suck in the hair without it falling on the ground. So people don't have to sweep the floor anymore. And that technology is being used by Remington. I didn't know how to get things patent back in the day. So just imagine if I knew about that part.
Yeah, and I do want to dig into that. There's so much I want to dig into. I try to fill all this in 1 hour if possible, but sometimes we can't. But okay, so that was your first invention. What about your parents? Like when they seen that spark in you, did they encourage it? Well, how do they react when they seen that? Wow, he's not
Not on that level. They
Okay.
wanted me to play basketball.
Okay.
So they was investing in basketball. So that was the other side of the coin.
Did they try to discourage you? Did they say put that invention down, forget about that, or
No, they let me be a kid. You know, and I didn't realize till I got older that a lot of people didn't have that privilege. The privilege of being a kid.
Gotcha.
That's the birthplace of imagination.
Right.
If you didn't have that privilege of being a kid, then we can tell why a lot of adults are the way they are, because the fact is that damage them. Remember, look at your memories. Most of the memories that you memorize, not college and high school, is childhood.
Right.
And that childhood was a brief amount of years, but it impacted your life for the rest of your life.
Correct.
Brief. I think I remember starting at 9 all the way up to 13. But those 9 to 13 years, that was the impactful version of Steve that he liked at that point in time. Then it was a sign of, 14, still trying to find himself, trying to fit in, where he knew that he was different, but kept trying to fit in with people that really wasn't destined for him to fit in.
Okay.
That was a nice little hiccup with that. Until you realize when you have to isolate yourself and understand who you are by yourself, now you start to really discover your purpose of why you're here.
Yeah, you see so many examples of that in the scriptures and in ancient texts where the central figure like Moses, he had to go into the desert. He had to go away, isolated in the desert for 40 years. Jesus had to go into the desert as well for 40 days, 40 nights to be isolated. What does this time of isolation do for us? What did it do for you?
It allowed me to learn about who Steve is. Steve's legacy was birthed from a dream.
Okay.
The legacy is, when people talk about legacy, it's normally like something they want to leave behind. It could be the kid. I'm a junior. So I was the legacy of my father. So I put that into the concept of the name. Also, me wanting to set a legacy. It got to the point where now they don't even say Steve Legacy. They just call it the legacy now.
The legacy.
They went from Steve Legacy. That's the legacy. And it's always, I'm always creating things or trying to put things out there, not just for myself while I'm here, but for the time to come, set it up for the time to come. Because life is not about us. We think it is. That's not why we're here.
Right.
How can we impact others? How can we be an impact for others? Greatness. Jim Rohn said it best. In order to be great, serve. Service to many leads you to greatness. When I harnessed that and understood that, took me a while to do that, I realized when you serve, everything that you want and desire, just like the word is of Zig Ziglar, everything that you want and desire, you go and find out what they want, you get what you want automatically. People don't think that way. No, a lot of people don't think that way. They want to get, I want to get, No, take the word, Find out what they want. Find out what these people want. Find out what they need.
Totally.
And everything you desire, you get in return.
Yeah. I love what you're saying there because fear is almost the opposite of this. It makes you contract. They call it a recession. Recession just means a contraction in the economy, in the growth, in the macro economy. What it does to us in the micro scale, on a small scale, it makes us contract. And so contract into just me. You just focus on yourself. Fear makes you it makes you go into preservation mode. The little that I have, I'm going to get all I can, and then I'm going to put everything that into a can, and then I'm going to sit on the can. Right. Oh. And so you don't produce anything like that. So I love what you're saying about what do you have to serve? Well, I don't have anything. I just have this little bit. So I want to connect that to what you said earlier. You said the magazine was already in your house this morning. And one of the themes of this particular conversation that's kind of like my North Star here is the story of Elisha with the widow. Elisha with the widow in 2 Kings, her husband died. And obviously in that culture in ancient Israel, if a woman is not represented by a man, she's in a lot of danger. They'll just throw you to the wolves. And her husband left a debt that she couldn't pay. And the debtors were on their way. If you can't pay this debt, I'm going to take your 2 kids as my slaves, and that'll be my payment. And then Elisha, she went to Elijah. She was petrified with fear and contraction and fear. And he asked her something that was pivotal. He said, what do you have in your house? He asked her, what do you have in your house? But she's a poor widow. It would just be obvious to Elisha, being a prophet, I don't have anything. And that's what she said. The first thing she said was, I don't have anything. And then he says, I believe he asked her again, well, what do you have in your house? And they said, well, I just have this little bit of oil. And then that was the miracle. The miracle was in the tiny thing that she had in her house. Can you talk to us a little bit about that concept that hey, if we feel like we're in contraction, we're in recession, fear, panic, we feel like we don't have anything. What does that one thing in the house represent to you? What does that mean to you? And what has it meant in your life? What God had already put in your house, the small thing.
It wasn't in the house. It was in the dawn of time.
Okay.
The thing that God gave us was the ability to think.
Okay.
The ability to create. See, I always say, I don't see things for what it is. I see things for what it can be.
Okay.
So you see how even with that story, she didn't see things for what it can be at that point.
Mm-hmm.
She seems to what it is. What it is, I have nothing. No, you see, like a lot of times in life, and the only way you're able to see stuff is when you really slow time down. And really, you can't really physically slow down, but you can slow yourself down.
Okay.
By being still. Mm-hmm. And it's power in being still. People think moving, and I always use this analogy, don't mistake movement from accomplishment. They had an experiment years ago, the processionary caterpillars. They move in a procession. And the experiment was they put the food source in the middle of them. But since they move in a procession, they kept moving and moving, and they died, even though their food was less than a couple of centimeters apart.
Wow.
Don't mistake movement from accomplishment. So a lot of times we think that we're moving. We think that we're doing a whole lot, but we're not accomplishing anything. So what I had to learn, and this is the big thing that I do with everything, you break things down into manageable pieces. When you look at monumental things that have to do with work, things that you want to bring forth, and it's so big, that's what fear like to creep in. But they always say, how do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time. We think we want to take the whole piece, and no, you choke on it, one piece at a time. So everything I do is one piece. I didn't know how to create no magazine. Who do I know that owns a magazine?
All right. So can you bring us back to the origin of that moment? What inspired you to create the magazine? You touched on it earlier, but can I just unpack that a little bit, the whole magazine
I was
story?
trying to get my story published.
Okay.
And some publications, some articles, I was sending it out, and I did not get any response.
Okay.
And I was at one point complaining. If it was negative news, they put that on front page. But I thought that my stories were big enough to be able to share, to be a positive light on the negative news, especially coming in my city. And I was thinking small, just my city local, but not knowing that it could be national but anyway, I was saying to myself, well, it's a funny idea. How about create a magazine called Black Innovation? It has to be invented by now, right? Come on, it has to be invented. It's so common. The name is common. Gotta be out there, right? No, did a trademark search. First thing I did was buy the trademark.
Okay.
Gotta get that name. Intellectual property, gotta own that from the gate. So I got the name because I was like, you would hate to do all this work and then somebody come up and give you a cease and desist letter and you'd be like, all that work for nothing. So you gotta be smart. So I went up, got the name, got the work. Now, 1 page a day for 40 days.
There's that 40 days again.
1 page a day. See, people look at a whole magazine and we look at a magazine like, oh my God, all this work in it. Once again, I didn't know what I was doing, but I know where I was going.
Right.
See, the thing about it, you don't have to know everything. Just got to get started.
Yeah.
Most people are so hesitant because of their fear, and it freezes them.
Totally.
Don't let fear freeze you. Let it activate you. And there's a difference between being on and activated. You could be on, still ain't nothing happening. Right. And the prime example is you can go to the cell phone store right now, and all those phones are on, but you cannot call. Why? Because they're not activated and they're not connected to the network.
Oh, wow.
You got to get connected to the network.
Yeah, that's right.
So 1 page a day for 40 days.
Okay.
Lot of lessons learned. And here's the big secret. I designed the whole magazine on my cell phone because my computer died.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
You're the first person I told that to.
Okay.
And you see the magazine that was created on a cell phone. So that means there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. Yeah. It's just that fear blinds us for the resources that we actually do have. You had creativity, you had all this innovation inside of you, and then you faced a problem. You faced, hey, where can my voice be heard? Where can Black Americans be their voices heard, their stories told? Just like all these other Caucasian people, these white people that have all their magazines. Where's my magazine? There's no one on these, and you're like, well, I'm going to make it myself. And can you tell us a little bit about the story with your daughter? Because that was fascinating, how she she came up with the name of this game. She wanted to make a game, and you guys faced another problem there, and how you turned it into another product.
So like during the pandemic, everybody was Netflix and chilling. Everybody was watching movies and getting fat and having babies.
Yeah.
So one Saturday morning, my daughter liked to ask a lot of questions, and I always want to give her the answers. Even when sometimes I don't feel like it, but I never wanted to stop her from asking questions, because that's the key to life, right? That's why Socrates was the man, or the godfather of philosophy, because his whole skill set was just asking questions. And we call him a genius, right? They gave him the answers. But anyway, I'm answering these questions, and she said, "You're like a dictionary daddy." And the stroke of genius came to my mind. I said, "Dictionary daddy." I said, that sounds like a good board game. But I never created a game before. So what do you do with that? Just say, "Oh man, I don't know." No, I went in the closet, looked at certain games. I said, "Oh, so you gotta have this, gotta have that, let me write that, or gotta have a storyline." Break things down into manageable pieces. And I wanted to show my daughter that we can take an idea from my mind to write it on paper and create the actual thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to show her so that she would never have no doubt. Now, here's the disbelief. Here's the discouragement. Here's the ones that when Mattel and Hasbro said, "We don't want it."
Okay.
So then I turned my living room into my own production facility. So I was teaching her a lesson of, even when they tell you no, you better tell yourself yes.
That's right. And again, I love the theme here that it was in your house. It's like, what do we have in our house right now? If you're facing fear and panic about the recession, economy, how are you going to put food on the table? I'm going to ask you right now, what do you have in your house? Right? He just had this problem here where, or actually it was a genius thing that his daughter said, "Hey, what would you call it? Dictionary daddy," right?
Yeah, she called me a dictionary daddy.
Dictionary daddy.
Like a human Google, right?
A human Google, a dictionary daddy. And it's so catchy, but his mind is always thinking about, what do I have? Where can I create? He's looking for the innovation. He's looking for the solution. He's looking for the next product that he's going to produce. So a big thing of fear is, what are you looking for? What are you training yourself to look for? Am I looking for what I have in my house that's going to solve this problem, this financial problem, where I can create my own income, where I can create my own economy, which I feel it's exactly what you're doing. You're not only creating a fortress around your mind, your emotions, where no one can hijack you. Now the actual economy can't hijack you because of all of this innovation. So I want to ask you right now, if you're listening, what do you have in your house? What has God given you that you might be minimizing? Something small. There's so many examples in the scripture where God takes and purposely uses something small, something that everyone else is rejecting, overlooking. There's so many examples of that. David, he was the smallest, the youngest in his father's family. He was overlooked. The little stones, the two copper coins that the Bible says, the widow in the New Testament, that Jesus told his disciples that this woman gave more than everyone else, and she just gave two small coins. The 5 loaves and the 2 small fish, and a small boy brought the 5 loaves and the 2 small. What is in your house that you're viewing as small? Because that's exactly what God wants to use to do something big, so that he could get the glory and we get the benefit. So I just love that story of, it was just something so small in your house already. God had already given it to you. It was there, but you were looking for it. Your eyes are always looking for that opportunity. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm always looking for, how can something become?
Okay.
One of my passions is creating, birthing something from nothing. Like, let's look at June 11th. The idea of the magazine was not even in existence.
Okay.
I just told my girlfriend the name, and this is what activated it. See, that's another thing that activates things. Well, you could throw something out there, but then when somebody plants the seed, she sold into the idea. She gave me $25. So that $25 represents the actual magazine being produced already. So I got to do it now. The seed was sown.
Okay.
So now it's like, from the idea, now we want to manifest this thing. So now you got to figure out how to do it. But never tell yourself you can't do it. As soon as you say to yourself you can't do it, the body's going to find ways so you can't not do it.
Right.
So find ways, and don't even see. You mentioned fear a lot, and I really don't believe in fear because fear to me is false evidence appearing real.
Okay.
And that false thought process, what it does to me, it actually just steals away your time if you can't get back. So I try to understand, what is the fear really? What is the concern? And let's narrow down, and let's take that out there. Once you get the facts at any price, it would change everything. So if there's false evidence in favor, get the facts first.
Okay.
I always tell my girl, she just like me now. Before I even want to go start stating my opinion, give me the facts at any price.
Yeah.
Then I know where to go.
Yeah,
if you hit me with a bunch of, like, for example, you type in right now on Google, I want to start a magazine, how much is it going to cost you? It's going to save about $100,000. You can type it up, check my word for it now. So when I typed it, I said, man, how can I get around this? See, you always got to ask your questions to your subconscious mind. Wow. How can I? You start to put the formation of the words in the how can I, your mind subconscious will go to work for you.
Right.
You put it in the I can't, it shuts down.
Right.
Go to sleep mode. Safe mode, on the phone,
sure.
Computer, safe mode. Barely on. It's enough to keep the power running, but ain't no way home.
Ain't nobody, the lights aren't on. Yeah, that's so true, man. Okay, so how many products have you created and you actually trademarked and patented?
Let's see. So I got the Wandering, which is the mobile photo booth, right? I invented a massager. I fell in 2019. So you always got to find a solution, right? I fell in 2019 jogging on the sidewalk, uneven sidewalk, tripped and fell in front of Checkers.
Okay.
And it's funny, at the time was, I wasn't worried about the body. I just worried about who saw me fall. Right. But I didn't realize I was in so much pain, right? So wound up taking them to court, but they kept on trying to give me pills and stuff to make you loopy. So I said, man, if I had some type of device that I can just get some of these knots out of my neck, because I already got my T1, T2, all this stuff is jacked up here anyway.
Okay.
Just to relieve some of that pressure, it'd be kind of cool. Yeah. Then I know exactly what it was, but I know what I wanted. So it's called Not to Be Gone as a handheld massager that I built out of tennis balls, right?
Wow.
Because they always talk about how tennis balls massages are good for the body. Yeah. But the thing about the tennis balls is that when you use it without some type of device to hold it in place, it's all over the place. So I wanted something to stabilize the tennis ball so it could go where I wanted to go.
Okay. Versus
want to move here and move there. So that was the second one. The third one is this overhead mobile photo booth. Everybody got the, I know most of the people that's been in weddings in the last couple of past 2 years, they got the little 360 spin that goes around the body. I got one that's like a helicopter that I just invented.
Okay.
And talking about finding stuff in your house, I found every piece that I need to build that prototype in my house.
That's incredible.
And I thought I needed to buy other stuff.
Incredible.
But you have to look at things differently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know one thing that you could, creativity is hard to define, but the way I would describe creativity is connecting. How do I connect one thing to another thing that seems like they don't match, they don't work together, but how do I put it together where they do match and where there could be some congruency there? Taking ideas that seem completely contradictory to one another, but how can I reconcile these two ideas? How can I reconcile this and when I put it together? So that seems like you're doing that all the time. You're always trying to recreate, and how can I combine this with that? And
everybody else doesn't have that gift.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that it's wrong to not have it. Some people are the ones that once you create it, they know how to market it.
Correct.
Some people are the ones that have to market it. Those are the ones that are going to buy it.
Sure.
You just got to know what part you play in.
Okay.
Are you the early adopter, or are you the innovator, or are you the consumer?
Okay.
Find out who you are.
That's true.
The quicker you find that out, the less frustration you'll have along your way.
Correct. Right. We can't all just be super creative, but I believe like each one of those people that you mentioned there, they're so different, but each one of them, once they receive, that idea from the previous person, they need to apply their own creativity in their own lane. Like people who are very linear, I feel can't solve problems. Like they just view things one particular way. It's really hard to solve all the problems that life is thrown at you, that your business is thrown at you, that your relationships are thrown at you, until you can be creative and say, hey, well, there's that over there. And if I combine this with that idea, we can solve this problem here. Mhm.
Yeah, but Einstein said it best. He said that the same mindset that you use to create the problem can't be the same mindset
Right.
to create the solution. So that's where it comes with a bridging the gap of understanding the difference between fear. And that's why I came up with my solution that when fear shows its face, you show fear its plan and it gets out the way.
Okay. Yeah,
If
tell
you
us
have a
about that.
plan for the fear
Okay.
ahead of time, that's why even my 7 steps to goal setting, step number 3 is always list the obstacles and adversities that you're going to meet along the way. Most people don't plan for that.
Okay.
First time they get an obstacle or adversity, they want to quit because they did not understand their why. Once you understand your why, you know that's it's part of the pathway. I got to go through this to grow through this.
Yeah.
I got to go through this to grow through this.
That's right. Yeah, like all of these paths, these people that inspire us, they're in positions, they're in places where there's a barrier to entry. And just because there's a barrier to entry doesn't mean you're supposed to run for the hills. So I love what you're saying there. You're going to face obstacles. Like, what were some obstacles that you faced in, creating these products and getting them trademarked and bringing them to market the way you did?
Well, let me just do the most recent thing, the magazine.
Okay.
Whole process was a total disaster.
Okay.
But I got to the finish line.
All right.
Here's the things I learned. Production time always may not come the way that you want, even though you have a plan for the date. That's number 1. So govern yourself accordingly because of the date. Number 2, you got to know the clarity of the photos and the pictures. The resolution has to be at certain levels. If it's not, it can be nice on the phone, but when you blow it up, it can be distorted. And if you don't fix it, you're going to have a bad looking magazine. So find out who can raise your resolution before you release that thing. Number 3, I had a software that was supposed to have formatted everything, and it did not work.
Okay.
And I was behind the gun because I was behind the time frame and I had to figure it out. The real reason why I kept pushing is because I call it scripting things into life.
Okay.
A lot of people call it manifesting. Everybody got different names about scripting. I wrote out what it's going to be before it happened. The magazine is coming out on the 1st.
Okay.
But here's how God works. I'll tell you, this is something. So all these different times where the platform that I was using wasn't working, time was getting close. It was July 28th, and my release date is the 1st. I have 1 sample in right now, but the production did not start yet because they did not finalize my approval. They did not get the actual confirmation that I thought I gave to them. So they did not start production.
Wow.
Someone told me to go back in the email. Went back in there and said, wait, they didn't start? Oh, shoot, they got to start this thing. I said, man, the 1st is right around the corner. Long story short, the 28th, they would start going to production, but I still had the books by the 1st.
Okay.
By the grace of God.
Right.
So that means the date that I put out back in June 12th to be exact, that's going to release August 1st. They did release on the date that I said. Not a day later, not a day before, August 1st.
Wow. Yeah. What's amazing there's so many things that are amazing about that, but one thing that stands out is that being in a crisis situation, being in that fearful situation, you alluded to it earlier, is what is going to create the miracle. Like, you don't need a miracle. Look, if you're in a situation where you need a miracle and you're actually contemplating a miracle or contemplating praying, if you haven't prayed in a while, is because you're in a bad situation. But I just keep hearing your story and so many other patterns in the Bible and in my personal life, which I want to share a little bit. But that was a catalyst, is being in that dark situation. I mean, the universe was created from darkness, like a baby is fostered in the womb in a completely dark situation, right? The cliche, the days darkest before the dawn. And so like these dark periods, they're either going to create something in you, the miracle, the light, a new light, something new, or it can crush you and you just kind of sign your own death sentence in that situation. Could be anything. Could be a sickness, could be a lost relationship, could be, recession, financial downturn. That dark period that we're in is what fosters. I think there's a Chinese proverb that says, it's a little different than what you quoted Einstein saying, but it says that the solution is actually in the problem. And so, I love that. Love the idea that we can turn the dark situation on its head and use that as a catalyst for the next miracle, the next innovation, the next creative project that the Lord deposits in our life, that this gift.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, you nailed it. Right on the head. That is, see, it's funny. The last person I worked for was in a let's say it was disorganized. It was just that nothing ever worked out the way that you wanted to work out. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, you was always prepared for, well, if this happens, this is what we do. Well, if this happens, most people, if they don't understand how things just ain't gonna always work on the first go around, and don't understand why, they'll blow out. But you gotta understand, in order to receive the accolades and receive that nice little serotonin and that dopamine after you finish completing something, you have to go through some things. And now, check this out. All the little hiccups that went on the first issue, watch how fast the second issue will come out.
Oh, right.
Yeah, everything got ironed out already.
Right, and then you can educate other people now, and you know what they're gonna face. Hey, I want to do my own magazine. Honestly, yesterday, after thinking about all this, I want to put my magazine together for my Airbnb and leave it there on the coffee table, just so that they can peruse that and brand the whole thing. I was like, I gotta get with Steve, but like you can,
that's smart.
You can help people like me navigate those waters now. Like, look, no, you're gonna face a challenge with the pictures. Get a good photographer, get a good whatever it is, because you went through that dark time yourself, but you didn't give up. You didn't run for the hills. Another thing I loved about the story of Elisha with the woman was that those guys, they really didn't want the money that she owed. They wanted the children. They wanted the next generation. That was really what they were after, because they said, look, if you can't pay this debt, we'll just take your kids as our slaves. So I was thinking this morning, I was like, if she pays back the debt that she owed from her husband, and let's call it 10 grand. She owes 10 grand to these people. She can't pay, she pays them the 10 grand, cool, they get the 10 grand gone. But if they can get the 2 kids as their slaves, how much can they make in the next 20 years from those kids?
So much money, because those slaves want to have kids. So now now you're tapping into some stuff when it comes down to my people.
Go for it.
At the while, when they stopped getting people from Africa, they started breeding the quote unquote, they call it stock at one point in time.
Correct.
Because it's more valuable in that, more labor hands, more things like that. Even in this magazine, I've learned that even the privilege of having a patent, I think I talked to you briefly about it. If it wasn't for Thomas Jennings being the first one to have getting a patent from Black folks in the United States was not going to be a factor.
Wow.
We don't talk about that stuff. Some people are still finding out about the fire in Tulsa, like Black Wall Street. They still find out years later. They cover a lot of stories. So when you start to find the truth, trying to find the facts, you start to understand. So yeah, it was more value in the kids. Why? Because them kids can have kids. Yeah. And kids. That 10 grand ain't nothing compared to the kids. That's why they knew what they wanted.
Yes.
Give me the kid.
That's right. So the way I see it, and I love what you shared about the first patent that a Black man was able to get. Think about the challenges and the bullets that he must have faced. But don't get
me started with that.
Okay.
I mean, we enjoy the fruits of the labor, but we forget about who labored.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that again. We enjoy the fruits of the labor, but we forget about who labored.
Right.
And it's not that long ago. 1821.
Right.
You do the math. That's not that long ago.
Correct.
It's not like a century ago. A couple hundred years.
Yeah, and he paved the way for you, like making your life easier and for generations to come. That,
Imagine if he wasn't. And here's the good thing. Who put that inside of him?
Correct.
When anything that could go wrong was all around him. Who put that passion? Remember, now we got opportunity to get inspired by somebody.
There it is.
They want to do something. Well, what if you don't have anything? And everything around you is dark. And your value, whoever you are, is not even on a Richter scale. But you still got that sense of, I got to do something.
Yeah.
If that ain't activation, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's why I say, make sure the energy and the resources you use on this planet, be able to give something back before you leave. I mean, come on.
Totally.
Don't be like you got here and used up everything and then left and did not give mankind nothing.
That's right.
Come on.
Yeah, I love that about the story of this widow with the 2 kids. When she realized her kids were the future generation, her kids were in danger, that's where she sought the Lord, the man of the, she didn't seek him before that. So I think knowing, okay, if you right now are in this dark time and you don't know what to do, like you feel you have nothing, and even the little you have is being taken away, look to, if you don't have kids, but the next generation, the people, like Steve is saying here, the people that you can serve, the people that need what you have, that need you to go through this. They need you to go through this and go through it well, because you're going to be able to inspire the next generation to go through theirs. But if you head for the hills, what seed are you planting? What are you leaving behind in this world? You're leaving behind a legacy, to use your word there, of defeat. Just run for the hills, and the darkness, the recession, the sickness wins. It's stronger than we are. Those who are for my enemies are more than those who are with me. But if you can go through it, if you can persevere and seek the Lord like she did for the next generation, like that should be our fire. Like, what can I give? Once the why is strong enough, to use Jim Rohn, like you mentioned him earlier, once that why is strong enough, maybe it isn't for you. Maybe like you don't do anything for yourself. But what about your kids? What about your nieces and nephews, people who are watching you, who want to be inspired too? What about using that as fire to go seek the Lord and start looking, what do I have in my house? How can I create more income, if that's the fear right now? There's something in my house where I can create more income. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I had to say on that.
No, I think that's good. Like, well, I had to stop chasing after the money.
Okay.
Chase after the service.
All right.
When I chase after the service and target the people that's looking for me, then that's when things start to change. You chase after money. Remember, money is an idea. Money don't mean nothing, but it means everything, because the fact is that's how we transfer for goods and services. But really, money has no value.
Right.
If you really want to get technical, but we have to utilize it in order to get what we want and things like that, service and products, things like that. So look at money as a tool.
Okay. And
your ideas is the most valuable thing. That's why they be like, people invest in ideas, because that's where the money is, because they've seen the problem smooth. Look at it, like, I had a friend that came up with the delivery. He had like a mobile delivery idea concept years ago called Lazy Boy.
Okay.
And did not take advantage of it.
Okay.
And reminds me of a time where I was the first one that got the drop on the cell phone watches before they even came to the States. But when you start talking your ideas to people that's closed-minded, if your mind is not protected, which it wasn't at the time, they said that was the dumbest idea in the world. And I believed them. And I sold one, and I got rid of the rest of them, and I just did. And then one Christmas, I never forget, I had a TV on, and Samsung had their commercial. After that moment, I said, you know what? I don't care what people think.
There you go.
When I see that cell phone watch come, I don't look. People begin to believe once you believe. Yeah. Even if they didn't believe first.
It's so contagious.
Yes, it is.
So contagious. Yeah. So, we let people, okay. So how important is it, the people that we surround ourselves with? Have you ever had to eliminate friends because you felt like, no, like they're going to tear me down?
They eliminated themselves.
Okay.
And I hate to put them on blast, but what happened is this. When you're going into that growth stage, and like you said about, you got to sometimes go into the wilderness. Some people think that you changed, but you did change. But the thing about it, most people don't want to change. So when you see the change, then they'd be like, I don't want to change. But don't get me wrong. I tried to bring them with me, but everybody can't go.
Okay.
And you got to realize that everybody can't go. When Moses went up there to get the 10 Commandments, did everybody come up to the top?
No.
Everybody couldn't come up to the top to receive what he was receiving from God.
Yeah.
And look what happened. They thought he was taking too long. And look what they did. Can't even wait.
Yeah.
Like, come on. How much more I got to show you? Didn't we just cross the ocean?
Right.
Didn't you just see that? I got to go up to the mountain real quick. I'll be right back. Come on. Come back and...
Chaos.
Oh, people, something else. Oh.
Yeah, I feel like when you share, you got to be so careful what you share with who, especially with these innovative ideas. You want to try something different.
People are not ready for that.
Yeah.
Sharing the dreams, that's why I stopped sharing. I just show you.
Yeah.
I give you a glimpse of what I'm about to do, and I'm going to go, and it's going to come out. Just be ready when it happens. I get a glimpse of what I'm doing, I make it come out. And like I said, I throw it out ahead of time. I throw that thing out like, so it's something to go forward and go and catch. Some people wait and sit in the dugout and be like, man, that ball is sitting on the ground. No, pick that thing up and hit that joint. Let's go for it.
Right.
Come on. What you got to lose? You
That's
fail,
right.
you got experience.
Yeah, I mean, if
Look
you
at the magazine. Look at my experience. Now, like you said, and I was thinking about it too. Fernando, I'm thinking about coming up with a course, how to create your own magazine from start to finish.
Oh yeah, that'll sell like crazy.
7 steps. But I'm gonna wait because I got a lot of things on the plate. Got a children's book coming out. Got another game coming out. So I gotta.
Okay, what people? Let me ask you this. It's just a spontaneous question. Don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but this just popped in my head. What kind of people out there that could be listening who may not think that they could use a magazine? Like, I didn't realize I could use my magazine in my Airbnb. You know, when the guests come in, leaving it on the coffee table. It just occurred to me yesterday because I'm like you. I'm always looking for like what's God going to bring into my life. But what groups are out there that could use a magazine that they don't even know they need a magazine?
Now, you know what's funny? There's a company that called me yesterday that I seen a TikTok ad where they specialize in coffee table magazines that will put your branding inside of it, right? You have some cards that you can pull out and you're promoting.
Okay.
What better goal and great thing that you can do is being a narrator of your own news and publication.
Okay.
I used to always think about those movies where the people that control the headlines of the paper,
right,
control the stories. Remember, stories dictates people's actions.
Correct.
Stories and it dictates headlines dictates people's actions and choices.
Yeah.
Everything's all about a feeling. How does emotion? That idea you just got for yourself, that right there is a whole new market that people were not even thinking about.
Yeah.
That's a genius.
Yeah, like I could create a whole. Now this just struck me now. Why am I only thinking about one magazine and one Airbnb that's mine to promote? What if I create an entire company for Airbnb hosts globally for their magazine, and I'll do it for them? Boom, company right there.
Hey, Fernando, you already threw it out in the universe. You better act on that.
No, I know. Like somebody could just be, I'm running with that.
That's right there.
And that's
Airbnb today. Or Airbnb Digest.
Hold on.
Yeah, look. Just imagine. Look. Top 10 Airbnbs to check out in 2022.
Oh, brilliant. You know, somebody out there right now is like, no, Fernando, that's a dumb idea. And then they're like, I'm going to do it.
Look, this one of my gifts is I can see ideas thoroughly. But the thing, what I love about it is that I'm not so scarce and so fair that I don't help people get their ideas.
Yeah.
I had given my friend, you may see this thing, but okay, I gave it to you. I gave him a name called Streamify that specialized in doing reviews for streaming movies because I used to hate not knowing what movies to watch. Okay. I said, that's a gift. You make your money, go ahead and do it. Wow. Fast forward 3-4 years, nothing done. But I can't do everything I create.
Yeah.
So I try to give ideas away. Yeah. Fernando, that's a winner.
Streamify.
That's a winner.
Okay.
That's a winner right there. Airbnb today, Airbnb Digest, top 10 Airbnb. And then check this out. Oh my gosh, you're talking about the cash cow. Look, I'm going to be a silent partner. Here's the cash cow. You get in the actual publication, charge them for ads, stuff like that. And beautiful pictures of the actual, they already got the pictures on the site already.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Put a little biography of the person that owns that one and that little story. Oh, man.
$5 a month. Just pay your $5 a month.
Man.
Because I've been wanting, I guess I'll touch on this. We have like 5 minutes left. I know the Lord did it. But I started with real estate, investing in real estate, literally with nothing. I was working as a mattress sales guy in mattress firm. And I just knew that I can take this sales ability that I was just learning and sell something else. And then, so I got this idea, and doing my studies where you can take a property that you don't even own and sell it to an investor who you don't know yet. you may not know yet, and then make money by doing that. And I was like,
Flipping houses. I got you.
yeah. And then I was like, I started doing a calling, and it wasn't until I met the right person, where he was kind of a few steps ahead of me, my buddy Jonathan Silva, and I admire this guy so much for what he did. He had been doing it for a while, and so I said, look, I don't have any money, but I have some time, and I have this sales ability that I've been learning over the last few years, and I have faith. Like, I know we can do something together. You pull the list, you pull the pre-foreclosure list. I'll go knock on their door, and then I'll get them to agree. I know I can get somebody to agree to something. I know I can get somebody to sign papers. I've been doing that for years now. This is no different than selling a $15,000 mattress. So it's like, you pull the list, I'll go talk to them. I'll follow up. I'll do all the stuff you don't want to do. And then you teach me along the way. He said, done. He gave me the list. About 2 weeks later, long story short, I get a property under contract, him and he shows me how to do I didn't know how to fill out a contract. I had no money, but I just had this desire, this faith that I knew God wanted more for me, where I can give to other people and help other people, and, eventually get married and give to my kids and everything. And so I had that belief, that promise. And so, but I had no money. I just had a little bit of time. I connected with the right person who did have what I didn't have, and I had something that he didn't have. And then we put this thing on the contract. We made $12,000 to split. I made $6,500 with nothing, like literally had nothing. And so what I would think of as nothing, but I had a car, I had time, I had, air in my lungs, things that I wasn't leveraging up until that point. And that's when I realized I don't need to work for a company. If I can not, I know it was God who created it, but if God can use me to create $12,000 or, $6,000, split with someone else, and I made him $6,000 and he didn't have to do pretty much anything, there's something there.
Yeah.
And so that's really what I just wanted to share that before we go. Do you have any final thoughts on if someone's out there panicking, sad, a single mom where she doesn't know how she's going to put food on the table? What would you have to say to someone like that right now with what's going on financially?
Find out how you can serve.
Okay.
Find out what areas, what problems they need solutions for. People invest in skill sets. People invest in problem solving. People invest in new ideas. People don't really invest in begging. You probably get down here and there, but you got to keep coming back. You teach that man how to fish, you don't see him no more. Keep giving him fish, keep going. So find a way to serve. I try to find ways where I can actually continue to serve. And it's not always peaches and cream. There's a lot of times where you have droughts, but that's when you regroup.
Yeah. There's always a reason to panic. Even before this, there were so many reasons to, like, just Russia invading Ukraine. That's scarier than a recession that we've been through every, couple of years anyway. But it's really fear. And so I love what you're saying there. Find someone to serve. That my buddy Jonathan, who gave me that opportunity, he didn't want to go door knocking. He didn't want, but I could, and I wanted to, and I didn't have the money. He had the money to do all the other stuff. Hungry. Yep. But
hunger supersedes anything.
Yeah. And then so the way I pitched it to him was like, I'm going to do what you don't want to do. Right. Yeah. So like that was the service to him. And I made him $6,000. That's like good. How grateful was he for me doing my part? So like if I would just want to echo what Steve is saying here, if you're, in that panic right now, in a desperate situation, who can you serve? Who can you help with what you have? Hey, maybe you don't have money, maybe you don't even have time, but you know how to cook, you know how to cut hair. People have started multi-million-dollar businesses by just knowing how to cook the best tortilla. Like you don't even have to know how to cook a lot, but I know how to cook. I make the best bowl of cereal that you've ever tasted in your life. But do I believe it? Like you mentioned belief earlier, extreme belief. Do you have an extreme belief that you make the best cereal on the planet? Yeah, but it's just cereal. Okay. But it's what you have in your house. Any other final thoughts?
No, I mean, like, everything that you're looking for, you already have within. So somebody got to activate you. Something's going to activate you. Just be ready to be activated when it does happen.
Amen. That's my hope for this, bringing people like yourself on here. Just want to activate people, let people know there is hope. I just want to leave people with hope that you don't have to accept the circumstances. There's always I guess I'll leave us with this. There's always two truths when we read the Bible in our life, there's the truth of the facts of the moment. That is true. Like, you can't deny the fact we're in a recession. That's true. But there's also there's always a greater truth. What does God say about that situation? What does faith say in that situation? Faith in God. And what does the word say in that situation? Another truth that contradicts the truth that we see with our eyes. Now, which truth are we going to have extreme belief in? Extreme belief, because wherever our extreme belief is, that's where our life goes. What you believe in, that's where you're going to go. If I don't believe I'm going to fall when I jump from a building, I'm going to try to jump from a building. But if I have an extreme belief that if I step off that building, I can't fly, I'm not going to go step off that building.
I got you.
If you're in that situation, you can pray. Pray something. It's so small. What is a prayer going to do? Prayer changes things. Prayer changes situations. Prayer can have someone knock on the, well, why does God need us to pray? He wants you to participate. He wants you to experience the faith so that no one can ever take that away from you. But if you just depend on circumstances, then circumstances can take it away from you. But if you depend on your faith in someone greater than yourself, God, if your faith is in Christ, then no one can take that away from you. And that's what he wants to deposit in all of us, that it doesn't matter that we're in a recession. It doesn't matter that we're in the brink of World War III. It doesn't matter if I have an extreme belief in what God says, what is truth, aside from the facts. Anything else on your side?
No.
All right. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
They can reach it. My website is stevethelegacy.com or stevethelegacy.co. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And I'm on TikTok.
Okay, man. I'm scared of TikTok. I've never dabbled in TikTok. It just seems overwhelming, but maybe I need to dabble in it. Thank you so much, Steve the Legacy, for joining us. There's so much more that we just scratched the surface with this guy. We had an hour. You could spend another 4 or 5 hours, and there's just so much. He has so much to offer, so much service in him to help humanity. So connect with him, reach out to him, and I'm gonna leave you guys with that. And have a blessed day.